from Matthew Hammond. I must be the only one to buy CDs and rip them to my phone. What is the album you are listening to now? I am listening to London Grammar's Truth is a Beautiful Thing and Amy McDonald, The Human Demands. Oh, well, I'm listening to Mariah Carey's Christmas album currently in my car.
It's fantastic. I'm listening to what's on my record player? The Who, Sell Out.
Nice.
1967.
You know what sucks about now too is like I'm like, well, what bands am I listening to now? And I used to know when during the CD era, I could rattle off 20 bands that I was like, yes, I'm a huge fan of all these. And now I'm like, let me check my phone. Let me check the playlist songs that I've saved. It's like I don't even know that whole album. I know like one or two songs by that band, and it's like,
yeah,
you feel like, oh, what am I even a fan of anymore?
Yeah, I stopped sort of pursuing new music around 2005 or 6, and I don't really keep up with the latest trends or anything, which I think works to my benefit at this point, because I don't sit down to write a song that sounds like now for the sake of being trendy or hip or anything like that. But like my latest single, Sad Little Man, which ended up in the charts last week, I'm looking at all the other artists in the charts, and like I was up in like the singer-songwriter charts with Adele and Taylor Swift.
Wow.
And I'm going, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, look at that. Number 1 on Apple Music, top 20 single on Apple, top 10 Amazon best-selling singles.
And I'm up there with like some of these artists I recognize. Like I know Adele, I know Taylor Swift, but like the other artists I was up there with, I'm like, I had no idea who these people are. I don't know who my peers in the music industry are anymore, but I don't really care. And so, you know, I guess that comes with just 2 decades of music industry hoopla. But at this point, it's like, I'm just going to do my thing. And if it works out, it works out. I did not expect this song to really do what it did or has done so far. But I am certainly glad that people are connecting with it.
Okay, I want to play a little bit of this. Hopefully I won't get a copyright infringement by the artist.
I won't copyright strike you.
Oh, this is already
sad little man sitting
so
deep
cute.
in a lie. He's dead in his soul, but he'll keep you alive. Do what he says, not what he do, 'cause the truth is for him and the lie is for you. Sad little man, but he's treated like a god, as the faithless pray to a fake and a fraud. Worship the man, pledge to his word. 1 shot, 2 shot, now you get a 3rd. Sad little man, you better run now while you know you can. Sad little man, you don't fool me, you sad little man. Sad little man, gonna trap you like a dog, put your head in the net while they eat you raw. Don't ask why, just comply.
Wow, this is so catchy.
Prescribe. Sad little man, you can watch him on the news, preaching to his choir while they learn the rules. Wow. Some feel safe and some feel healed, but they'll all hold his hand as he makes the kill. Sad little man, you better run now while you know you can. Sad little man, you don't fool me, you sad little man. Sad little man, and he wants your kids. Some might live while the rest get sick. So put them to the test and listen for the yell. When the truth comes out, he's gonna burn in hell. Sad little man, you better run now while you know you can. Sad little man, you don't fool me, you sad little man. You can't fool me, you sad little man.
Wow, this is so good.
Thank you.
You know what? Like, vibes I'm getting from not only this music video, but also the sound, it reminds me a little bit of like, remember in Smashing Pumpkins, like the Tonight music video?
Oh, right. Yeah,
where
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, I don't know if they used cutouts per se. And and then there's like a tone of your voice that also reminds me a little bit of Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
But man, that's awesome. And like that's the sound. It reminds me of like exactly that, like kind of early aughts, early like 2010s, maybe like sweet spot.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. I've never cared to just sit and try to write something trendy, which is probably worked to my it works to my benefit now. I don't think it did back then. You know, once I've always just sort of written a song for the sake of like I've never. I should say like this song, for instance, it just comes from a place of being angry and frustrated. And I didn't sit down and go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write an anti-Fauci song. And, you know, like I had no intentions behind other than just venting. And I sort of have always just channeled, you know, true, real emotions into my songs without having to, you know, plan it out like it's a product or anything like that. But I think that like that was something this year that I felt people have been starving for, because music these days, like you listen to what's on the radio, and every now and then I put on top 40 radio to see if I can tolerate it or get into it. And I'm like, what? I really feel like the oldest man in the world, because I'm like at the point, I'm going like, what the hell is this? Because like they're not singing about anything. There's no message. It's like it's hump music. It is basically all it is. It's just sex music, and it's just put to a beat. And it's not even love songs anymore. Like I can understand a love song, but we're so confused about who we are anyway. Like we can't even write boy falls in love with girl or girl wishes boy would fall in love with her songs anymore. So there's nothing to say in music these days. But you know, I started releasing these sort of now they're sort of considered protest songs at the beginning of this year, because I just felt like, is nobody going to say anything? Like all my heroes were just completely dead quiet on everything that's happened over the last 2 years. And some of the indie guys are doing it, and I'm an indie guy, but like none of the mainstream, all these rebellious 60s rockers that you'd think would be speaking up by now. Like you got, I think Van Morrison and Eric Clapton are the only two that have stood up to say anything at this point. But
it's shocking. You know, who did you expect to hear from? Who did you expect to say something?
I don't know. I mean, I think the Rolling Stones, you know, guys like that. Like the funny thing is, Rolling Stones, I think, did release a song. I can't remember what it was called or who they collaborated with, but it was like when you first start listening to it, you think, oh, this is gonna stand up and speak out against Fauci or something. But it ends up being like a pro-vaccine song or something like that.
Oh no!
And you're like, wait, no, what? No, what happened? But I think what has happened is like all those bands going back to the rebellious 60s and the hippie music and all the way up through the 90s with Nirvana and everything. All those bands at this point have just become a t-shirt at Target. You know, they're merchandise.
Buy for a baby, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly. And it doesn't so much take away from their music, because their music is good, whether it's on a t-shirt or not. But it's just become like a brand in of itself, that a corporate brand with lawyers behind it trying to sell you, you know, a t-shirt. Or you look at like things like Lollapalooza, and music's supposed to be like this rebellious spirit that brings us together. And if you had told me that I was going to be like a rebellious singer-songwriter at some point, like there's no way I would have believed you. It turns out that being a straight white married father in the year 2021 was going to be the thing that made me the most rebellious.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, you're like, I'm the one with edge, I'm the one with soul, and I'm like living what would be considered a basic typical life, like in the 90s.
Yeah, because like when I look back at like all the music that I listened to, and all my favorite artists, they were drug addicts, sex addicts, rock and rollers, and I never lived that lifestyle. I was too clean of a kid to ever go down that road. So I felt like, oh, geez, I'll never be Mr. Rock and Roll. But now, like, just being a pure person, or however you want to describe it, you know, like, that's what makes you dangerous. Like, I've literally had friends go, you can't say what you're saying because it's dangerous. You're spreading misinformation. YouTube has flagged Sad Little Man for medical misinformation. That video you just watched, go watch it again and tell me what about it is medical misinformation, because you can't. And I've asked them through their Google chat. I've asked them through email. I've asked them Team YouTube via Twitter. What is it that's medical misinformation? Tell me. I think their answer so far has been, we can not provide you with any more details on what it is. And it's like, well,
they're like, they know that you're problematic. They just don't know what they can get you on.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's just funny. It's funny to be on this side of the aisle because I'm just a guy. I'm just a dad. I'm just a dad who's fed up. And
you're a cool dad.
I'm a cool dad. That's for sure. I try to be cool, but you know what's funny is you can think that you're a cool dad, but your kids are they just know you as dad. You're just dad.
Yeah. Right. Who knew that, like, just having opinions and voicing them and saying things that seem like common sense are considered like edgy and rebellious.